This is episode 279 of Jumblethink.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Jumblethink, where we interview dreamers, makers, innovators, and influencers, all about their journey of turning dreams and ideas into reality. Along the way, we're going to share some tips on how you can turn your own dreams and ideas into reality too. On today's show, our guest is Brandon Youst. More about Brandon in a moment. Whether you're a new listener or a longtime fan, if you haven't subscribed to Jumblethink, right now is the best time to do it. All you have to do is go over to your favorite place to listen to podcasts, search for Jumblethink, and click that subscribe button. Now let's join the conversation with today's guest, Brandon Youst of Urban Farm Academy. Hey there, welcome to Jumblethink. My name is Michael Woodward. I am your host. We have an incredible show lined up for you today. Before we get rolling, I have some exciting news I wanted to share with you. For a long time, we have been available on places like Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more. Today, I am proud to announce that we are now available on Pandora. If you're a Pandora fan, go on over, search for Jumblethink. We'll also put the links on the Jumblethink website so you can easily find it. That is something we're super excited about and something we've been working on for a while. Today's show is presented by our friends over at Penji. Penji is your source for unlimited graphic design at a low monthly subscription. We love them. I think you're going to love them. And they are killing it with creating amazing graphic design for small businesses to big corporations and even startups and marketing teams in between. How can you learn more about them? Well, head on over to penji.co. And as a listener of Jumblethink, they are doing something super, super, super cool. They are offering our listeners 15% off their first month when you use the code JUMBLE at penji.co. So go check them out. I love them. I think you're going to love them. So penji.co. Use that code JUMBLE. Today's interview was recorded live at Podcast Row, hosted by Stand Up New York on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. They are doing great stuff. If you are an entrepreneur and you're looking to connect with podcasters, it's your must-go-to event. You can check them out at podcast-row.com. And we are so thankful that they hosted today's conversation with our guest, Brandon Youst. We also want to thank our friends over at Podcast Row. Today's show was recorded live at Podcast Row at Stand Up New York on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Podcast Row is an incredible event for entrepreneurs to connect with podcasters. To learn more, head on over to podcast-row.com. Our guest on today's show is Brandon Youst. Brandon is an entrepreneur and the founder of Craven Local Food Market, Bootstrap Farmer, and the Urban Farm Academy. He is also the author of the book, The Bootstrap Farmer Guide to Farming the Future, which discusses the process of recreating your life by getting into food and agriculture. Since leaving the corporate finance world 4 years ago, Brandon's mission has been to localize the national food supply through the proliferation of hyperlocal business models, and has been doing this through the Craven Local Food Market, a meal subscription service where Brandon and his team grow, harvest, cook, and deliver fully prepared meals to local client base on a weekly basis. This business model, along with others, are featured in the Urban Farm Academy, which is an online platform teaching hyperlocal business model frameworks and workforce development for people looking to create within the food and agricultural space. Let's join the conversation we had with today's guest, Brandon Youst from Urban Farm Academy. Our guest today is Brandon Youst. Brandon, thanks so much for being here and coming from North Carolina to Podcast Row in New York City.
Oh, heck yeah. Thanks for having me.
I'm super excited to hear about your story. You are starting something called Urban Farm Academy. It's launching. You've been doing a lot in the ag space. We're going to talk about food. We're going to talk about agriculture. We're going to talk about what we're doing right and wrong in America when it comes to the food we eat. I'm sure we're going to be talking about a lot of cool stuff.
Okay, I'll try to stay off the soapbox.
All right. Well, we like soapboxes. And especially ones that matter. So This should be a great conversation. You have an interesting journey into what you do and how you got there.
Yep.
You weren't always an entrepreneur.
No.
Weren't always a business guy. Tell us a little bit about that journey of how you went from 9 to 5 to starting a business and and the risk, because you actually sacrificed a lot to get there.
Yeah. Well, it was an easy sacrifice, honestly.
Okay.
There wasn't much, there
Yeah.
that was worth keeping. Yeah. I mean, I just did, I can give you my whole life story up to like 4 years ago real quick because it's just kind of uneventful. You know what I mean? I did the college thing, did econ and finance because I thought that was going to be the safe route with a nice paycheck.
Yeah.
And, you kind of, I feel like a lot of people find themselves in their mid-20s, and it's not like in high school where you keep telling you to figure out what you want to do, but it doesn't really work like that. I don't think you can just decide. And so for me, I had to go to college and get a job and work it for a couple of years and realize that I didn't want to do that anymore. And like the person who was 10 years ahead of me was sitting 6 feet away at the same desk with the same life and the same commute. And it's like, he makes a little more money, but is life just about money?
Yeah.
No. So just this feeling in my stomach just became super obvious to me that not only did I not want to work there, and I liked the people that were there, I really did, but it was the job, it was just everything. It was I felt disconnected, so just took a look at my life, and thank God I had a well-paying job. I had the time to figure it out, but decided to take control and figure out and look at my interests, and that was growing food and cooking it. So just combining those kind of recreated my life from scratch and took the time to do it, moved in with my parents to save money.
Yeah.
So my life sucked then, living with the parents, doing a job you don't like, but I felt awesome because I was on to something else. Like building those first bits of momentum is the hardest thing.
Yeah.
But just reading books felt good at that point because I was doing something about it.
Yeah. Agriculture, to me, you talked about moving with your parents to start your business. And agriculture to me is really fascinating because there's a lot of innovation. There's a lot of backwards thinking to bring old philosophies new again, which is, I think, really needed when we're looking at a post Monsanto. What's that company called? Monsanto kind of world where we're actually getting back to food and not manipulating our food into something it shouldn't be.
Yeah, the awareness is growing for sure. The stats, though, small farming is still small, but there's huge opportunity. When there's a problem, there's opportunity.
Yeah. And, I was watching a documentary years ago, and it was talking about how we don't understand our connection to the earth because we've stopped actually being the ones producing, growing, cultivating the land that we live on. Yeah. And there's something pretty incredible there. I know we have some friends down at Brooklyn Grange, which is over in Brooklyn. They're farming on top of rooftops. Yep. There are down in south of Midtown Manhattan, there's a company doing hydroponics, growing crazy foods that don't belong here, so that they can go right to the table at restaurants and be used. So innovation in agriculture is really kind of cool right now. Yeah. What are you doing? Like, tell us that journey of going, all right, I think I want to get into food. I think I want to get into agriculture, but that can mean a lot of things. Yep. So what do you do with that?
Well, I was in corporate finance with a nice paying job, and it's a tough pill to swallow to consider selling $2 heads of lettuce, and they have to be perfect all the way through, and I didn't know what I was doing, and all these things, like, I'm going to quit this job to become, like, a farmer who's not going to make much. Like, I had to figure out a way around that, and for me, the industries are niching down, and people are being more creative, and for me, combining industries, combining food and agriculture, by taking something that I can grow and turning it into something, that allowed me to get beyond commodity farming. So I'm not selling a $2 head of lettuce. I'm selling a $10 salad. So that gave me that price security that I know I can get the price that I want for the things that I grow.
So, okay, you mentioned food and agriculture brought together. I think a lot of us, people who don't know what we're doing or talking about when it comes to agriculture, would say, aren't they the same? Isn't agriculture just the mechanism to grow food, and then food is delivered to you through your grocery store or the restaurant you go to? Aren't they one and the same?
Well, people know a lot about food, but they don't know anything about agriculture. Okay. You know what I mean? So people love food. They think about food. They're thinking about where they're going to eat tonight, tomorrow, with their friends, all of that. And so you can't ignore it. It's all around us. But when it comes to agriculture, where our food comes from, how it's grown, there's a huge disconnect. I mean, I come to New York and I'm not used to New York, and it takes me a couple minutes. Like I feel this like immediate sense of disconnection where no one's paying attention. It's just life that doesn't involve what actually allows us to have life. So agriculture is really getting to the baseline. Like this is growing food for nourishment. And when we think about how important that is, and then we also know what our food system is like and all of the global supply chains that we rely on to work perfectly all of the time, it just seems like we take a lot for granted here, and we're also not aware of how bad these things are for us, like all the processed food. To be able to keep food, from not rotting, that's unnatural. So now you're putting unnatural things in your body, and now we have a healthcare system which is completely sick. Like if we just ate better food, all of this healthcare debate, I don't care. It's gone. Like, people just need to, be reconnected in that way, that they understand that the things that they put in their body affect everything else.
Yeah.
So there's food, but then agriculture kind of brings in that sense of like, oh, there's an impact in everything I consume, everything that I buy.
Interesting. Really, really interesting. I think for me, I remember a story. I lived in Northern California for years, and one of my good friends, his wife was a nutritionist at a college. She taught that. And so she was asked to come into an elementary school or middle school and talk about nutrition and food and what that looks like. And she brought in a basket of fruits and vegetables. And she said something to the effect of like, everyone know what this is? And she held up like a tomato. None of the kids knew what it was, which was really, really sad.
Yeah.
And they're like, this is a tomato. And you're like, oh, that's the ketchup.
Yeah.
I thought that just was how it came.
Yeah.
That's kind of sad that we're in a place where we don't understand that, or a lot of places don't teach that.
There's a hierarchy of human priorities, and it's convenience at the top.
Yeah.
We just want what's convenient, and as long as we can get what we want and move to the next thing that's going to grab our attention, we're good. So hasn't been a need to know what a tomato is from a kid's perspective. There's no repercussions for not.
Yeah.
You're getting fed. Food's always there.
Yeah.
Food wasn't always at the table. If you had a bad winter, the whole town was kind of crapping their pants a little bit.
Yeah.
And we're just completely separated from that, which is a great thing. It's a great thing. But we've gotten to the point where they're putting bags inside of bags so you can carry your bag, or we're shipping beer across oceans because it tastes a little better. But now what's happened is we can see what happened with local breweries exploding everywhere. And now everyone can buy a local beer. But let's apply that thought process and that framework to everything that we consume.
So are you saying that in the case of localization of our food and where it's grown, that if you don't live in the tropics, then you maybe shouldn't have mangoes coming to you? Are you at that level?
No. Because look, that would be idealistic thinking, and that's trying to that's on the soapbox, and that's saying let's look. They've been importing spices for thousands of years, and everything was fine. We're always going to be doing that as we should, but it's actually not that much of a stretch to reduce it by 90%, because just think about what do we eat on a day-to-day basis, like pizza, ramen, tacos.
Yeah.
I can grow most of the stuff, or within a 50-mile area, most of those things can be grown.
Yeah.
And so we can have things local and still get what we want. So that's sort of the connection I'm trying to make for people.
Yeah.
If you want to get involved into farming, whether that's in your basement, your office, or a farm outside, you can grow a very small amount, something very specific, but make a product that people actually want to buy.
Yeah.
Because most people aren't looking for ingredients. That girl didn't know what a tomato was because she didn't need to know. But she's looking for food.
Yeah.
So if we want to reach the mass consumers, let's give them food.
Yeah.
So the next step of what the farmer needs to do, in my opinion, hook up with the commercial kitchen.
Yeah.
Turn it into something that people will actually want to buy. So instead of getting the 2% at the farmer's market, who are buying local, and we're saying, buy local, buy from me. No, we're accepting the challenge to be better entrepreneurs and saying, let's meet people where they want to be met with products that they actually want.
Yeah. Now, for you, when you're saying agriculture, are you just looking fruit, vegetables, things that you can grow, or are you also thinking the localization and the products that are things like chicken and beef and things like that too?
There are so many opportunities to participate in what's called the hyperlocal food economy.
Okay.
So one of my businesses, we do a meal subscription service. We grow it, we harvest it, we cook it, and we deliver it.
Is that like a CSA or?
No, it's like a local, fully prepared version of Blue Apron.
Oh, okay.
We bring breakfast, lunch, and dinner. to your door, grown by us and our farming friends in the area.
Yeah.
But now that we're doing that, now that we're delivering it to your house, there's also a lady who makes goat soaps. There's also someone who brews beer. There's someone who roasts coffee. And now a lot of the things that we consume on a day-to-day basis are made locally.
Yeah.
But to connect the dots and be the delivery service that brings these to your door where you want to be met is an opportunity. So there's a lot of opportunities out there that we've been exploring that we're trying to show off and saying, there's a lot of businesses out there that people are trying to start, a lot of people doing e-commerce and whatnot, but there's an opportunity to get involved in the hyperlocal food economy, creating a product that interests you. It could be kombucha or pesto or ice pops. It could be any of those things.
Well, okay, I want to get a little bit more into the weeds of this because I wonder, you mentioned the delivery methods. Mm-hmm. So in the case of the example you gave, you said we're creating a food box that they take home. They have breakfast, lunch, dinner. They can make it right at home. They have everything that they need. And that's part of the reason I like Martha and Marley and Spoon and Blue Apron and that kind of thing. Because I feel like even though there's a shipment of that product to me, I feel like I'm not wasting anything either, though. So I like the concept of what they're doing. I know that the delivery, what could local farmers, local ranchers be doing to rethink their delivery methods to get things into the hands of people?
Well, people want food. They want meals. Like the delivery services that you're talking about, you're just getting the ingredients and you still have to make it.
Right.
And it's coming in all kinds of plastic packaging.
Yeah.
Because we're local, because we're just harvesting, like our subscription service, we get paid on Friday, we harvest and buy on Saturday, we cook it on Sunday. Wow. There's like zero waste there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and because we're not shipping it in the mail, we can fully prepare it. So we have an opportunity to do something that corporations can't do.
Yeah.
And this is how, if we do this all across the country, small farmer, like everywhere, doing these little things and then coming together and creating like a locally made grocery delivery service. Now we're doing what Walmart's doing, but we're supporting our local producers in doing it.
There's two sides of this coin. Side number one is the farmer, which we've been talking a lot, or the rancher or whatever specific space and food that they work in agriculture. For them, I think one of the hurdles is relationship. You're talking about creating these meal boxes, you're talking about creating food that people eat, and you're doing all of that, but you can't do it as an island. You can't do it by yourself. In most cases, I mean, there's some farmers that can. They have a small ranch there. They have a small vegetable patch. They have all the pieces to assemble that there. But by and large, you see a lot of farmers, they're going to be like, I'm a corn farmer.
Yep.
I'm a soybean farmer. I'm a whatever farmer, walnut, almond. And they're really focused on one thing.
Yep.
So how can they start thinking differently and building the relationships with other people in that space to say, you know what, collectively we could do something really cool?
Right. And that's the thing, like, hey, if you just want to do that one thing and specialize, like, awesome. Let's start working together. Technology is allowing working together to be so much easier than it has been.
Yeah.
I mean, there was always collectives and CSAs and all of these things, but, that's not where people's attention is. People's attention are in delivery apps and these things. So how do we come together and provide a service that's just as convenient, has all of the offerings that they would want? So we do have to come together as local producers.
Yeah.
So that person making kombucha, and that's all they do, it would be great for them to hook up with something that isn't kombucha that is kind of related to that people would also want to buy. And so with our meal delivery service, we've added the things like, coffee and soap as things that people can add on because we're trying to add convenience to their life.
Mm-hmm. Years ago, I come from the tech space, worked in Silicon Valley for years, doing startup work with our agency, for other businesses. And one of the ideas that I always had was creating a global farmers market where you could have a network of local farmers that are working to directly connect to consumers in their marketplace. Mm-hmm. Is this something that we need more of? Is a network? You mentioned there the technology. Everyone wants apps. They're like, I've got Uber, I've got Uber Eats, I've got whatever app it is that they love, Airbnb, and they're like, it's part of their life now. Yep. Do we need technology? Does somebody need to come along and build the technology to actually network all of this together? There's
a lot of people making really good attempts to do just that. I mean. Yeah. The word app is pretty vague, but we all understand like it's sort of like a technology that allows connection.
Yeah.
And Yeah, it's been a rough go. There's a lot of different apps, so finding the one that everyone's going to jump on and get to use hasn't happened quite yet. And dealing with farmers and keeping up inventory and making all that happen, there's just a lot of moving parts, but we're definitely headed in that direction.
On the flip side, I mentioned two sides of the coin. We talked a little bit about the producer. Now let's talk about the consumer. Mm-hmm. How do we re-educate consumers to rethink how they do it instead of going, hey, I'm going to go to my local whatever grocery store they go to, and it's a chain, right. They're like, I'm going to go to Safeway or Kruger, or I'm going to go to Giant or Martin or whatever it is in their local space. How can they start saying, you know what, I don't have to be a part of a CSA. I don't have to go to farmers markets. There is another third alternative that allows me to connect directly to the farmer, but get all the things I want.
Yeah. Re-education is really the most difficult part, and it's not just re-education, it's reforming of habits.
Yeah.
Even myself, our meal subscription, we exchange jars. We try to do a zero-waste service.
Yeah.
But yet, I'm forgetting my tote bag when I go to the grocery store. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know it, and I feel it. Like I'm the hypocrite.
Well, it's the Western philosophy of convenience.
Yeah,
that's just convenient. I can go in and just get whatever.
So I think a lot of us have a sense what we need to do, but yet we still don't do it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So it's not really about education so much as it is forming new habits. And how do we form new habits? That's the most difficult part. But I like to give the metaphor of the local beer. People love beer, and microbreweries, they saw an opportunity to make it locally and make that local connection.
Yeah.
And people love that, and they've just gone everywhere.
Yeah.
And why couldn't we do that with cannabis or the kombucha or any food product?
Yeah.
We could do that. And so using that metaphor, allowing people to see what's possible that we could eat locally, it's going to be a little bit more seasonal. You're not going to get everything all the time. And look, we do have that ability.
Yeah.
But I think as a community, the only kind of idealistic part I'm looking for here is to have more of a sense of seasonality in our diets and saying, this is fall. Yeah, pumpkin spice. That's where I'm going to have that.
Because butternut squash.
Yeah, right. And I think we can all accept that. So when we have the ramen bowl, it's going to have some more seasonal things in there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, as you know, with these indoor farms, they grow whatever they want all year round.
Yeah.
So
one of my favorite restaurants in Northern California was in a town called Chico. It's called Spice Creek. They're not there anymore. They've gone to the Bay Area, actually, and started a restaurant. And one of the things that my wife loved most about there was she would go in, and every season there would be a different kind of lasagna. And the owner, the chef, would go down to the farmer's market and go get the fresh produce. So in the fall, you might have a butternut squash lasagna. In the winter, you might have a bean-based lasagna. And it changed seasonally based on what was available, but it was so fresh and vivid in the flavors and very much a stewardship of what was available to the local community. And I always found that fascinating that they were thinking that way. Yeah. And they've been doing that for years and years and years before it was the hip, cool thing to do.
Right. And well, the good news is when things are fresh, they also taste better.
Yeah.
And when things taste better, you become known for things.
Yeah.
And just like there's, Chinatown, they got the best this. There's like pride in what they can do. Mm-hmm. I think pride can be developed in the seasonal offerings of different communities and cities.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a break right here, and we're going to be back with Brandon to go more into this conversation, talk more about agriculture and food, and specifically Urban Farm Academy and what they're building there. We want to take a moment and thank our friends over at Penji for sponsoring today's show. Penji is helping startups, small businesses, big corporations, agencies, marketing teams, and more achieve more with unlimited graphic design support at one flat monthly rate. Their easy-to-use online platform pairs you with a professional designer and lets you create as many design projects as you want. Think of it as your monthly subscription to top-notch design with no contracts, no hourly billing, just fast, simple, and affordable graphic design for all of your needs. Here's the deal. As a listener of Jumblethink, they are doing something super cool for you. They're going to give you 15% off your first month. All you have to do is head on over to Penji, PENJI.co, and use the code JUMBLE. Go check them out. Now let's jump back into today's conversation with our guest, Brandon Youst. We are back with Brandon Youst. How can people find and connect with you?
So the latest project, Urban Farm Academy on Instagram. It is the Urban Farm Academy. Or if you just want to follow me on Instagram and see what I'm up to in my day-to-day life, it's Brandon Youst on Instagram.
All right. I want you to walk us through the different things that you are working on right now, because you did mention that you have Urban Farm Academy, which is just launching. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about that a lot more in this segment. But talk to us a little bit about the other things, because you've had a food truck.
Yep.
You have a farm.
Yep.
And so talk to us about the different elements of your business and how that comes together.
Yep. So when I was sitting in the office trying to dream up what kind of business I can create, I had a lot of things. I knew what I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
And part of that was I didn't want to build a business that participated in what we're doing as a society. You know what I mean? It had to be something that obviously couldn't be idealistic, because I would went right out of business, but it had to be something that didn't leave a pile of trash behind. And so that kind of got me thinking, if I can combine a kitchen that I have on my property with a greenhouse, I can turn that $2 head of lettuce into a $10 salad all on my property.
Yeah.
And yes, I had a food truck, and if I wanted to take it out and do events or wanted to go to the farmer's market, great. But it was really a commercial kitchen, a very cheap way to get a commercial kitchen on my property.
Yeah.
So there's like this whole bootstrapping mindset, and I built the food truck, so if I didn't like that aspect, I can sell it for a profit and kind of use that to pivot into something slightly different.
An old camper, right?
Yeah, an old camper, 76 Airstream. It looks pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a head turner, and I mean, I live in a town of 30,000 people. So
where in North Carolina are you?
New Bern.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of on the coastline. It's barbecue country out there, but we're still, because we're meeting people where they want to be met, and we're doing different things like the ice pops, connecting with kids. Word got out, and we're doing just fine.
Okay. So you've got the food truck that's actually a commercial kitchen in disguise.
Yep.
And you've got the farm.
Yep.
And now you're starting Urban Farm Academy. What is Urban Farm Academy?
Yeah. So it's a representation of that transitional period from I don't like what I'm doing and I want to do something in food and agriculture.
Okay.
Like that gap that existed for me, I know what I would have wanted.
Yeah.
And through some other businesses that we haven't talked about that I created, I had the opportunity to meet farmers across the country.
Well, what are those? Go ahead and tell us what those are.
So one's called Bootstrap Farmer, and I saw a couple improvements and products that can be made. So I'd already quit my job. I was like, let's see what happens. And that took off pretty quick, in fact. And it's given me sort of a megaphone all across the country to small farmers. I would say most small farms have heard of Bootstrap at this point, just a few short years, and I couldn't imagine that.
Yeah.
But and that was great, because the meal subscription model that I was working on locally, my goal always was to figure that model out and share it with others so we can replicate that everywhere.
Would you franchise the idea, or would you?
No, I don't want to franchise the idea. That idea is now living in the Urban Farm Academy.
Okay.
So that Urban Farm Academy, I knew I wanted to do it before I even can verbalize it.
Yeah.
But now that it's here, it's like saying, here's my business model. Here's the frameworks that I use to build something like this.
Yeah.
And we have a couple different iterations that we're working on, but it's basically saying, here's a way to not be a commodity farmer. Here's a way to grow a small amount of things with, well, you don't need much experience. You'll figure it all out. It's not impossible. Yeah. Working with the commercial kitchen, maybe just with the partner that can cook. And it's just a framework to start a business in food and agriculture.
Yeah.
So, my course is called Farm Fusion. It's basically combining food and ag to do this. It's a framework. But we also have, business development, how to take an idea and figure out who your market is and do the pre-launch and have it all that lined up. We have marketing courses, basically how to start a farm on a 2x4 foot footprint.
Okay.
So if you want to start growing it in your basement or your bedroom, that started a lot of businesses.
Wow.
A lot of people have started their businesses doing exactly that.
Is that like hydroponics or
hydroponics? Yeah, I mean,
hydroponics. I always say that wrong.
No, that's all good. I mean, but that's how I would even recommend doing it, because instead of saying like, oh, I've never done any of this before, I'm going to quit my job and do it. Well, try it first.
Yeah. It's kind of like Beverly Hillbillies. What was the one? Green Acres.
Yeah.
Where he was in New York City, started a farm, although he didn't understand farming and still did it. But that's a different story.
Yeah. And look, if we're going to start a business and we got to think about our lifestyle and what we want to do, let's not do it in a way where it's going to cause all kinds of stress and anxiety and we have to be reactive.
Yeah.
We can take things
slowly.
And so we offer courses like that. Again, we all have experts that I've met cross country that they're killing it in their own way. These are all business owners running businesses like on the front line. So it's just a different way to approach education. It's education for entrepreneurs or people who want to start a career within food and ag and aren't quite sure. So we're building that community and making the offerings that we think need to be out there.
Which I think is really cool. You have some courses, business of microgreens, minimum ag product, farm fusion, a bunch of other things. You mentioned before about the cost of entry, like, hey, maybe you could just do something in your basement.
Yep.
Maybe you could do something in your backyard, a 2x4 footprint there. What is the ideal size for starting a small farm? Like if somebody's going, I've had a garden in my backyard. I like it. I want to do agriculture. I don't know how much land I can afford to buy. What would be the next step?
I would keep it simple. No, you don't have to think of like so many things. Just start growing something.
Okay.
And the reason why we have the business of microgreens course there is because that's how a lot of people get started into farming. Because microgreens, I don't know if they're just seeds grown for a few days. It's the first 2 little tiny leaves on a little baby plant, and that's it. And so you have thousands of them on one tray that's like 10 inches by 20 inches.
Wow.
And people sell that to chefs, to restaurants, or people who really care about their health and make them, put them into smoothies. So it's a really cheap way to get started. So forget the greenhouse, forget the land, all this stuff. If you think you're interested in this, just get a tray, get some dirt, get some seeds, grow something.
Yeah.
And see how you feel about that. Because I mean, we've all gone a little too deep on things that we thought we would like, but didn't like. And that's why I think I'm proud to have these courses out because, they're $500 a piece.
Yeah.
But to even figure out that that's not for you.
That's
like,
an investment in savings, actually.
Like, so if I would have not went to college and spent more than $100,000, I left with $100,000 in debt, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I would just kind of knew a little sooner.
Yeah.
So we feel like it's a good approach, and to even learn what you don't like is good too. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. I did my own agricultural experiment a couple years ago. We lived on a 200-acre farm. We rented the house and the land right around it and put in 18 vines of grapes, and I loved it. It was awesome. It was a lot of fun until Japanese beetles came I could count down. I knew exactly the week it would come. Tried to treat it, tried to prevent it, and just didn't work. So that was my experiment into larger agriculture than what I had done before.
Farming is one of the hardest jobs out there. I mean, you spend all season growing something, and maybe a day or two before some foul weather comes and screws it all up.
Yeah.
And for me, turning what I was growing into meals where I can kind of hide all the blemishes, I needed that. I needed that.
Well, and I think that we've been conditioned poorly to think that because something is misshapen or because it has a small blemish that it's not edible, and that's just not true.
But that's what reality says is people do care.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate,
And that's the cool thing about like Misfit, which is a cool food service that's kind of connecting people with cheaper produce. I don't know if it's much cheaper, but that's misshapen or that kind of thing. So talk to us a little bit more about some actual tips people can take away right now to start pivoting from a consumerism based philosophy of food and agriculture to more of a I don't want to say educated philosophy, but maybe an enlightened philosophy about what could happen if they chose to do food differently. Well,
these micro decisions that we all have control over, really, they don't matter in the grand scheme of things, but they matter in the way that you look at the world and what you approach.
Worldview, your presupposition.
Right. So, I mean, it does matter in that regard because all of our individual actions is what makes up our collective action. So we have no choice but just to take the individual action, whether other people are doing it or not.
Yeah.
That's just I believe, our personal responsibility. So, like I said, I forget the tote bag sometimes. So I just want to be clear, I'm a hypocrite too. You know what I mean? Like I'm doing my best. I'm trying to create these business.
Well, and I want to pause you there because it's often said that, hey, people are asking for perfection.
Right.
And none of us are ever going to hit 100% perfection. So we got to give ourselves a little bit of grace here.
Yeah.
Especially for people who are making that pivot to say, you know what, I didn't do everything perfectly today. Well, no one's going to do anything perfectly every day.
That's a great point. And that's especially true in farming. So if you're just starting out and you're not going to grow it well the first time, you're probably not going to grow it super well at the second time. But that's like anything else. Keep at it. You're going to learn, the temperature wasn't right, or I got it too wet this time. And all those, just like anything else, like if you're learning programming, there's going to be certain steps and things you got to adjust. And that's the fun part. So set it up in a way where you don't put all of this stress on what's supposed to be the fun part, which is like learning, like how all these things interact and growing something and then turning it into something. So don't go crazy. See if you can dabble. If you can rent a kitchen where you can, grow some lettuce, rent a kitchen, turn it into something, take it to a farmer's market. It's a pretty low budget. You don't have to quit your job. You could do it on the weekends kind of thing.
Proof of concept.
Just dabble, see what you like. And because I've definitely had an idea that I would like things and then didn't. I don't use the food truck anymore. I mean, it's a grind, man. I love having the commercial kitchen and just doing the delivery and not worrying about the food truck ever again. You know what I mean? So you learn.
Very, very cool. We're going to wrap this segment with this final question before we take a break and do rapid fire questions. The question is, how are you finding purpose in what you do?
Well, working towards creating the world that I want to live in.
Okay.
And that sounds very, I guess, pompous, but really when I was in the office and knew that everything I spent the last 5-6 years on, my whole education didn't matter anymore, and I was not going to do that. And it's just deciding what kind of life do I want to live and what kind of world do I want to live in, and can I be a part in making that? That felt necessary. Why would you start from scratch and not create the world that you want to live in? So, with all the businesses and the people I work with, we're creating little worlds, I feel like. And I feel like we've done that. And so now, people can follow me on Instagram and see what we're doing. I want this for other people. Yeah. I'm not trying to franchise it. Yeah, there's a course. We put a lot of time into it. But I want this for other people. I want them to envision what it can look like for them. What's their version of this?
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a break right here, and we're going to be back in a minute for rapid fire questions. Hey there, I wanted to take a moment and thank you for tuning into today's show. It means the world to me that you would take the time out and listen to what we're creating. And I really, truly hope it is impacting you and helping you come up with the ways you can chase your big ideas and dreams. Our dream and belief is very simple, that all of us are created for purpose, that we matter, and that our dreams and ideas are significant. Now, I'm going to ask you for a little bit of help. Think of that person, maybe a family member, a coworker, or a friend that you have that's always talking about the big ideas and dreams they have, or that one day they're going to go do something or create something or build something. Maybe your friend, your coworker, your family member is constantly talking about their next great adventure, their next great invention. No matter what it is, we would love if they would become listeners of Jumblethink. And the best way to do that is for you to share this show and how it's impacted you. So think about that person and go share today's episode with them. Now let's jump back into today's episode to do rapid fire questions with Brandon Youst.
Placez votre électrophone à portée de votre main. Levez seulement le bras.
We are back with Brandon Youst for rapid fire question. Okay, we're running out of time because we're here at Podcast Road doing this, so we're going to fly through these super quick.
Got it.
What is one book you think every dreamer or entrepreneur should read?
Think and Grow Rich.
Okay, good choice.
Visualization is everything.
Yeah. What is a trend that you are super excited about?
Entrepreneurship, solving problems.
What's one thing you wish you would have known when you first started out?
Relationships are everything.
That's good. And our final rapid fire question, what is one dream you're still wanting to fulfill in your own life?
I want people to not know about me until I'm gone and everyone says, oh, that was the guy that made all of that happen behind the scenes. Because I want to prop up other farmers and other entrepreneurs to be leaders, not me.
Yeah. As we wrap up today's show, we always like to leave our guests have a final thought. What is your final thought for our listeners today?
Just think about the decisions you can make on a day-to-day basis that might have a small impact on the world, but a large impact on how we view our social responsibility. I used to own a cafe. We did the cafe, and I just realized how much power we all have and how much waste that we use. So we stopped buying plastic. We only did glass. And that micro decision had such a big impact on how many bags of trash went into the dumpster. And we can all do that. So small thing like composting, like something to build a little momentum is good. Just something.
Super great to have you on. Thanks for sharing your story. We wish you the best in all that you're doing and excited to watch the journey as it unfolds.
Thanks.
In a moment, we will be back for some final thoughts on today's conversation. What a very fun conversation today with Brandon Youst. There are many, many takeaways for me. I love the world of agriculture. I love the world of food. I love understanding how it comes together. I even like cooking when I have time. So today's show was a lot of fun for me to hear his story and how he's creating a new space in agriculture, how he's making it much more accessible to the average person like you and me. Listening back to our conversation, I started thinking about what's my takeaway for today's show. There are many, but the thing that stood out to me was the fact that Brandon is giving this amazing resource to people who want to engage in the world of agriculture. And the recommendation wasn't, hey, go do something big, go buy 100 acres or 40 acres or 20 acres and start your own little farm. No. That's not where we start. His recommendation was to take it small. Maybe start with a hydroponics place in your basement, or create that little 10 by 10 or 10 by 4 or 4 by 4 garden in your backyard. That you can start out small and you can begin the experimentation process to learn a bunch of things. One of the great lessons you can learn is whether you like or dislike something you're trying. Sometimes the ideas and dreams you have are fantasized, like they're much more appealing than the actual rubber meets the road kind of experience. And so you are there going, in theory, this sounds really, really cool. Now, I told the story in the episode where I had planted this little vineyard of grapes and I was experimenting with growing them, only to find out, yes, I enjoyed the process, but I hated the fallout with dealing with those Japanese beetles. For me, I made the assessment that, yes, I like it and it's very cool to do, but it's not the right thing for me because of the environment, the things I have to overcome, and it just wasn't worth my time, energy, or the other resources I had. On the flip side, maybe you learn that you love it, and then you take the next little step. If you started with a backyard garden of 4 feet by 2 feet, a micro row of greens of some sort, and you go, I really like this. Maybe you double it and make it a 4 by 4 or a 4 by 8, 4 by 10 section, and you grow more food the next season. You don't have to rush to get your dreams and ideas fulfilled at the immediate first moment that you have the idea and dream. I think that is a lie that many people buy into. I have this dream. I have this idea. It has to happen today. It has to happen quickly. And if it doesn't, then it's a failure. Truth be told, it's not a failure. It's a first step to seeing those big ideas and dreams, seeing those things come to fruition. If you are constantly pushing towards perfection at day one, and seeing the grand, big dream and idea you have happen perfectly at day one, it will always fail and falter. So you've got to step back and say, today I'm trying a first step, a small step on that journey of chasing that dream and idea, stepping into the unknown and beginning to learn the things you don't know. We talk about this often, that there are things you know you don't know. There are things you know, and then there are things you don't know that you don't know. You have to overcome these in different ways. The things you know, well, those are great. You know if you like something or don't like it once you do it. The things that you don't know are all the pieces that have to come together, and that I've got to figure out this problem and that problem and solve all of these things to make this a reality. The things you don't know are the things that shock and surprise you. And in this journey of exploration of ideas and dreams, you have to be willing to say, you know what? I'm going into this a little bit blind, and that's okay. It's not going to work perfectly the first time, but I can learn a lot, I can grow a lot, and I can evolve the dream and idea into the perfect dream and idea for me. And what the dream and idea may look like for you may not be what it looks like for someone else. It might not work out for them. For me, a great example is this podcast. I want to make this a livelihood. I want to make money off of doing this show. There are other people who want to create shows to feed their business and capture clients and become a conduit, a funnel into their business. There are other people who just go, I just want to do this as a hobby. You have to know what you value in the process of creating what you're creating. And you can't look to others as a copycat, a carbon copy of what they're creating. We see all of these amazing influencers and people who are like these megastar entrepreneurs. And we look up to them, and often we think that if we're going to be successful, we have to do it their way. And in that, we lose ourselves. We carbon copy what they're doing. We create the same content. We use the same words, and yet we lose ourselves in that process. And in this journey of chasing big ideas and dreams, that first thing, that big takeaway from today's show was that you should try something before you go all in, and that you can ease into the dream and idea. And the second part is that your dream and idea is going to look vastly different than someone else's. And you have to figure out how those pieces go together to work for you. For me, one of the other big takeaways on today's show is the fact that Brandon bootstrapped. That he took and did the most with as little as he had to make his dollar stretch, to make his time stretch, make those resources stretch, and invest wisely into the dream and idea he has. Many people, they go out and get big loans or VC or angel funding, and they aren't ready for that yet, and it implodes their business because they're not really thriving on the dream and idea. What they're doing is they're gaining time by borrowing resources, money, the time of others, and in that, you aren't really setting up your business for success. Brandon took the time to say, you know what? I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to go small to go big. And he bootstrapped the dream and idea so that he could get from where he was to where he was going. It is a slower journey that way. And there are a lot of people who are in it for the quick fix, for the easy solution, for the getting to the other side immediately. And I would tell you that is a dangerous place to live, because when you do face the adversity, when you do have failure, you're not going to be set up for success when you're so big. So take the time to figure out how you can bootstrap that dream and idea, to bootstrap and go small with what you're doing. And my final big takeaway for today's show is that you should give your experience away. So often we want to hoard our ideas and our dreams to ourselves, and there are other people looking to you to help them on their journey. Now, Brandon specifically is helping others by offering courses. Giving your experience away, giving your knowledge away isn't always doing it for free, but what it is doing is saying, you know what, there are other people that are coming behind me. And they might be a few steps, they might be 100 steps behind me. But no matter where they're at, I can help pull them into this new future. And you can offer these classes. You could be a mentor. You could be a coach. You could bring other people into the community to help them in the journey of seeing their dreams and ideas become a reality. When your dreams and ideas come to pass, when you start experiencing the things you want to experience, you need to invest in others, because if you look back and you're truly honest, there were people that invested in you in this journey. Could be a family member, could be a friend, could be another business person that saw the potential in you. So you have to look back and say, hey, come along on this journey. I'm going somewhere. I think it's pretty awesome. Why don't you come along with me on this journey? That is a powerful place to operate because it gives you perspective. It reminds you where you come from. It reminds you of the very energy and trial and turmoil it took you in the process of making your dreams and ideas a reality. And so when you move forward, bringing other people along on that journey of their own dreams and ideas, it's a really powerful place to be. So my 4 takeaways for today's show are, do you like it? Learn if you like what you're doing. Don't go all in. Learn it first. Don't be a carbon copy. Bootstrap, and then give your experience away. These are so powerful on that journey of chasing your big ideas and dreams. These are great tools that you can use. And I'm so thankful that Brandon shared his story about what he's doing. I think Urban Farm Academy is a cool organization doing amazing things. So what you need to do is take a moment and go check them out. urbanfarmacademy.com. I think you're going to love what they're doing. I think it's going to be great. And if you want to get into the world of agriculture and food, go connect up with them. Drop them an email. Let them know how today's show has impacted you on the journey of chasing your own big ideas and dreams. Well, that does it for today's show. I hope that has encouraged you on the journey of chasing your big ideas and dreams. I want to thank Brandon Youst for taking time out and sharing his story. We want to thank Podcast Row and Stand Up New York for hosting the interview. We also want to thank your friends over at Penji, your source for unlimited graphic design at a low monthly subscription rate. Go check them out. They're doing awesome things, and I think they can help you. Penji.co. Use that code JUMBLE for 15% off your first month. Now I'm going to leave you with this. It's your turn to dream big. I believe you were created for something awesome, that the dreams and ideas and the products and the messages and all the things that you're wrestling with right now, it's so worth it. And you were created for purpose to bring that to the world. So I know it's scary. I know it's filled with obstacles like finance and time, but it will be worth it. What will you do today? What will you do in this journey of chasing big ideas and dreams to change the world? Now it's your turn to dream big and change the world around you.
En avant, en arrière, sur les côtés. Vous êtes une autre personne. Les mères de famille, les enfants, peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant. Dans quelques mois, lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps, vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.